way that any president could have gotten away with pushing for $1 trillion deficits annually. That wouldn't have happened. So I pushed to get a bill passed that would cover the military for in the event of a shutdown. And I know there were talk about it. The truth is, in the event of a government shutdown, everyone's Social Security checks continue, no matter shutdown or not. Money continues to come into the Treasury and the Social Security check. Now, if you've got an increase coming in your Social Security check, you're not going to get that during a shutdown, but you will get the same check that you've been getting if you get Social Security. That's on automatic pilot. And I wanted that for the military because I didn't feel like anybody in harm's way should ever have to worry about whether their family back home would be protected if there was a shutdown. They should not even have to think about it. And it was a Gohmert bill, and I brought it up in our Republican conference, and I was told, we're going to make sure they're taken care of. And they didn't do it, and I kept bringing it up, and then I filed a discharge petition to try to force the Speaker to bring it to the floor, and then they put pressure on Republicans not to sign that. And so on Friday, the night that the government would have shut down at midnight, about 10 o'clock, we were told, we've got to pass this CR, because if we don't, the military's not going to get paid. And we had in our private conference, one after another, member of Congress get up and say, I've got military in my district. You can't do this to them. You have got to vote for this CR tonight, or our guys won't get paid. And anyway, got emotional about it, and I was so livid. And I got up, and later, one of my friends, I said, I never meant to raise my voice that loud in a conference. And his friend said, I doubt anybody will ever go into that room again and not hear your words echoing around that room. Because it was an indictment against our leadership for using our military as pawns. And I'm very afraid they're about to be used again. I have another bill to take care of them, but I'm afraid they're about to be used as pawns once again. They deserve better than that. On immigration, there are a lot of good things we could do to improve immigration and to improve the visa process. There's a lot of good things we could do. And I don't have a problem with temporary work visas. You know, we got farmers from Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and from California that say, look, if you like your food, fruit, vegetables, you better let us have immigrant workers come in. Well, two things I would like to see there. One is make sure that people who are working from them have the temporary work visa. And the second is, I think you ought to have an umbrella health insurance policy for the people that come in, because as it is now, we subsidize the health care costs, or actually the cost of their wages, because Americans that are paying taxes and paying health care bills are paying for the health care for people come in illegally who actually harvest different crops. So I'm okay with that. But if you are totally ignorant of what this president has been doing, then you need to understand this president, time and time again, has said, I don't like this law, so I'm not going to enforce it. I don't like this law, so I'm going to change it. Here's the new rule. And just making a law out of whole cloth. You can't do that. And there are two ways to stop it. One's with the Supreme Court. And our founders really didn't expect the Supreme Court to be the one to stop. They expect Congress would always step up and defund any president who tried to do things beyond the bounds of his power. And we haven't done that. And we need to. On the issue of immigration, I have no doubt, we've already seen it. If the president, we passed a sweeping immigration bill that has all kinds of new requirements for wall or fence or better security and more people, he will, as he's already done. I mean, you may remember Janet Napolitano said, you know, I know it's in the law, and I know the money was appropriated for billions of dollars. I don't want that virtual fence, so I'm just nixing that. And she nixed a law. I mean, just cavalierly, okay, it's law and we've got the money for it, but I'm just not going to do that. Well, you ought to have to come to Congress to get the law changed to do that. So if anybody thinks this president would not just ignore any new requirements for border security that he didn't like, you got another thing coming, because you learn what people will do in the future from what they've done in the past normally. So my position continues to be, yeah, we can work on an immigration bill, get it done like that, but we should not pass a single immigration bill until the president secures the border with what he has, as confirmed, not by Homeland Security, but by the border states affected. And once the border states say, yes, it's secured along our state line, then we'll get, we will get an immigration bill done quickly. But if we don't force the immigration, the not closed border, but a secured border where we control who comes in, you're going to have another DREAM Act and another amnesty bill and another amnesty bill. It will never stop, because people will always keep coming across. And what we've already seen is people have talked about legal status, amnesty, and a guy I hope to have on when I'm on Hannity's show next week is head of the, he's the union representative for ICE. And he says, the crossings have tripled and quintupled since we started talking about amnesty. We need to stop talking about amnesty, secure the border, and then we'll work everything else. But anyway, those were issues I was asked to touch on, and I'm glad to do so. And I'm now at the time I was given to finish, so where Art go? We got questions? I know I was told there were lots of cards out there for questions. Oh, okay. All right. Well, then let me mention something else that is a big concern to me, and it ought to be a big concern to you, and that's what's happening in Egypt. On the one hand, there's a lot to be concerned about around the world. And I've been criticized for saying this, but I stand by it. This administration has helped jumpstart a new Ottoman Empire. When you go from Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and you come around, they've got Iran, and when we pulled out of Iraq with no influence, Iran it really has powerful influence over Iraq now. And now Syria, with the Al-Qaeda-backed rebels about to, or trying to take charge, and then Turkey becoming more and more radicalized under Erdogan. I know he says he's not doing that, but he keeps moving in that direction. You come around North Africa, you're coming around the Mediterranean, and moving on up, and it is incredibly serious. Now, those who opposed Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood candidate in Egypt, some have told me that they were threatened, that if you try to stand up and claim that we fraudulently took this election, because they were claiming they had 500,000 more votes than Morsi did, that if you do this, we're going to burn this country down. We will destroy this country before we'll let you take it over. We're taking over. And some of them say that's why we backed off. But Morsi began to act outside the bounds of their new constitution, and they believed he was guilty of treason as president. So first 20 million rose up, and then the report was 30 to 33 million people. 20 million was the largest uprising in the history of the world. 33 million, if it got that high, that's just incredible. 90 million people or so in all of Egypt, and you have half or more of the adults rising up like that. Incredible. I mean, the reports were during the American Revolution that maybe a third of the whole population supported it. And then you have in Egypt the real people's voice rising up and being heard, even though they knew the threat of violence was coming, and there would be bombs, there would be suicide bombers, there would be burnings. Christians knew they would be coming under fire and further persecuted, perhaps killed, churches burned, and that's exactly what they've been doing. And what has our administration done? They condemned the Egyptian military for trying to stop the Muslim Brotherhood from taking back over. And if you think that this administration is on strong diplomatic ground, think about the fact. What did he do in response to this tragedy in Egypt? He sent John McCain and Lindsey Graham to Egypt to try to work something out. I mean, does that just say it all? Holy smokes. And then immediately they go over there and say, obviously Morsi is a political prisoner. Well, 33 million people were insulted. He's not a political prisoner. He was creating treason under the Constitution he helped get. We weren't all that happy with. He's not a political prisoner. He's our treasonous prisoner, and he needs to be tried for what he's done. And there's a terrible battle waging in the Sinai right now, and that was supposed to be something that he did really well. But I gave a speech for about an hour on the House floor about Egypt. I had blown up pictures that I'd gotten from a person who had been there during the uprising, and when the demonstration came forward, demand for the military to remove Morsi. It wasn't a coup. They want that clear. This was a revolution by the people of Egypt rising up against radical Islam. These were moderate Muslims. They were Christian, Coptic Christians. They were secularists. None of them want radical Islamists in control. And the reason you have to understand the violence is going to get worse is because the 12thers, as they're sometimes called, those who believe the 12th Imam will return and rule over an international caliphate. They cannot afford to lose Egypt from under Muslim Brotherhood control. They have got to have Egypt. It is so highly populated. It is linchpin geographically and demographically. They have got to have Egypt. They're going to do everything they can to keep from losing Egypt out from under Muslim Brother radical Islamist control. So I hope y'all will be patient with what's happening. I've been approached by people from Egypt now, a number of different people saying, your speech has been translated, going viral all over the country. People are getting copies of your written, what you said, and they were so gratified because they weren't sure there was anybody in Washington that understood. This was a real revolution, and just the things I've told you about it. And they want me to come over in a couple of weeks and speak to a big group there, and if things work out, I will be there in Egypt. And it's not the safest of places apparently right now, but y'all think about it. If anything can be done to help stop radical Islam in its tracks in Egypt, I'm for it. And if I can help, then I will do it. Because as President Bush